just made the list.
That is right. It is time for You Just Made the List. And what is our list going to be this week, Andy? Well, it is Survivor Series time. We've talked about Survivor Series. So now we are going to bring back the concept of the Mount Rushmore. And we are going to put on a Mount Rushmore our greatest Survivor Series teams. Jared mentioned last week about traditional Survivor Series matches, and I'm a fan. I wish they were brought back, but I understand with the concept of war games that's a lot of multi-man matches in one night, so I get it. Having said that, though, the traditional 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches are always so much fun. Andy, whether they mix heels and faces on one team or, they put together super teams like we're about to talk about, the concept is a whole lot of fun. So what we're going to do, Mount Rushmore, we are going to solidify our spots, the 4 greatest Survivor Series teams ever assembled. So these are teams that actually competed in a Survivor Series match together. So we're going to take the result of their match out of the equation. Doesn't matter. It's just the sheer talent on one team. So Andy, I'm going to throw to you first. Let's do honorable mentions first before we solidify our 4 on the Mount Rushmore. Give me an honorable mention that did not quite make your 4.
So my honorable mention, is, and I talked to you about this beforehand, that this list is really weird to me because there's a lot of teams with like 3 or 4 guys that are really, really good. And then there's somebody that's like, nope, you just ruined the whole list for me. This one's not, it's kind of like that, but not really. And it's the team. I think their Survivor Series team name was the Hulkamaniacs with Demolition, Hogan, and Jake Roberts. I think that's a wild group to have together. But that's the biggest star of that era, one of the biggest tag teams of that era, and then, in my opinion, the most underrated guy from that era, and Jake Roberts.
Yeah, this team is wild, man. This is a babyface team. I think it was probably 80. I would guess 89 because Hogan's wearing the winged eagle.
Yeah.
And he wore that. He did not wear that when he was champion against Andre. That winged eagle didn't come until around WrestleMania 4 time, and Savage won it, and he won it from Savage. So I'm sure it's 1989. But having said that, yeah, man, this was a wild, wild team. All right. If I have to give an honorable mention, it is for the team called the All Americans, and that is Lex Luger, the Steiner brothers, and the trench coat with the American flag Undertaker in 1993. And Andy, listen, say what you want about Lex Luger. He's fine, whatever. The Steiners, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And then, of course, you have the Undertaker. But, man, just the sheer fun of having an American flag inside the Undertaker's coat, that's an honorable mention for me. I mean, come on.
That's great. I forgot about that part of it. That is fantastic. That's amazing.
Isn't it? What a collection of talent, man. What a collection of talent. All right. Let's start our Mount Rushmore. Who makes your top 4 in the greatest Survivor Series teams of all time?
So I'll start with the easy one first for me.
Okay.
And then we'll work our way down. That would be Survivor Series 2001. Which was Team WWE, which was Big Show, The Rock, Jericho, Kane, and Undertaker. And full disclosure, since you have that up there, they are both on my list.
Okay, so you have both of these 2 teams on your Mount Rushmore. So this, in theory, is the greatest Survivor Series match of all time, in your opinion.
From a talent perspective, yes.
Yes. Okay, I got you. So yes, the graphic as you see it on the screen, this was the end of the Alliance storyline. So the team you see with Austin, Booker T, Shane McMahon, RVD, and Kurt Angle, that was Team Alliance. So WCW, ECW. And then you had Team WWF on the other side, The Rock, Chris Jericho, The Big Show, Kane, and The Undertaker. So Team WWF made my list. for my top 4. Team Alliance didn't quite make it. I hate to say that, like you said at the top, there's that one guy that really throws it off or whatever. For me, there's 3 guys in that one that throw it off. And that being Booker T, RVD, and Shane McMahon. I love them all 3. I think they're all 3 fantastic talents. But when I think of like dream teams, like they wouldn't be my first round draft picks. Like that team that WWF on the other side, the only outlier is the Big Show. And I think that's only because like there were so many. Undertaker and Kane were in the company at the time.
Yeah.
So like he would have been bigger had it not been for them. So I would take Team WWF over there. But I think that Alliance team is a great team. And I'm glad you threw that in there to yours. All right. Give me another team of yours in your Mount Rushmore. So you've knocked out 2 already.
I have. Honestly, it could be either one of these teams too, and I think this might be one of my favorite Survivor Series matches of all time. It was just a lot of fun. It was one of the first ones I really dove into, and it's from 2017. And there are 2 teams that I really enjoy both of them, but I think I'm going to go for the other one that might surprise you.
Okay,
and that was, I believe it was Team SmackDown with Shane, Cena, Orton, Nakamura, and Bobby Roode. Just because one, you have 2 of the greatest of all time when you got Cena and Randy teaming together. And then you add like just the pure shock, especially of that time, of like Shinsuke Nakamura is on this team. Like he's supposed to be in New Japan and he's on this team teaming with them. And this was like prior, like this was less annoying Shane McMahon during this time period. So he was still in good graces. And then there is so much potential in Bobby Roode. There was so much potential in Bobby Roode.
I dare you to find anybody on the 2017 roster that was more over than Bobby Roode.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
There wasn't anybody.
No, there wasn't. So I think it was the perfect storm. It was a weird match, but I really, really enjoyed that team. And Team Raw, it was awesome as well.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a Team Raw up there because that's one that I anticipated you picking. So I guessed wrong in making these graphics for the show. So if you look at Team Raw over there, you had Kurt Angle, who was the acting GM at the time. You had Triple H, the authority figure. You had Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe hiding back there in the corner, and then Finn Balor. Like if I'm looking at this team, it's like, man, this is not on my list, by the way, but this Raw team, like, the team that could have been. You talk about guys that stick out like a sore thumb, like Braun Strowman. Like, bro, I'm sorry. Like, this team is insane except for you. And then he and Triple H won the match.
Yeah, he was very impressive in that match as well. The only reason why, and I know you said outcomes and everything like that don't play into it, but it eats me alive still that Samoa Joe was eliminated as quickly as he was.
Yes.
And it's still, like, to me, one of the biggest bonehead decisions of the new era of why was Joe never champ? Why was he never world champion? Because he was amazing in TNA. He was amazing in NXT. He did a lot of good stuff on the main roster, and he should have been world champ. And then, like, you see what, even like later in his career, even in AEW, he's one of their best world champions they've ever had. So like he is a generational guy that should have been champion while he was there.
And listen, I love AJ Styles to death, and I love that he had 2 reigns of world championship reigns of over a year both times. Yeah. Like I'm all for that. But you can't tell me that the success that you had with Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar in 2017,
with that fatal 4-way,
then you couldn't have taken the title off of AJ. And I love Brock versus Bryan at Survivor Series 2018, but at least take the title off AJ so that Joe can face Brock at Survivor Series 18. Like, come on, man.
That Survivor Series, Joe should have won the title. Like that's one of the missteps of that year was Joe should have won the title.
I agree. All right. I'll throw a random one at you here. This is a team that these 4 guys actually feuded with each other in 1999 and then found themselves as a Survivor Series team. and that would be two of the greatest tag teams of all time, Edge and Christian, Matt and Jeff, the Hardy Boys. And this match, or this team in particular, I mean, you look at this is two of the greatest teams of all time for sure. Put them together on a Survivor Series team. This is the tandem that enforce the rule of the outcome of this match does not play into the fact of why they would be a great tag team, because these four guys lost their Survivor Series match, and I'm pretty sure that like Hardcore Holly was on the other side. Not to take anything away from Bob, all right, because he would Alabama slam me to the cows come home, all right? But come on. You got these four on the team and you don't let them win? It's 1999, the year they had the first tag team ladder match and all this crazy stuff. These are the hottest guys on the roster, and they don't come on. But they make my Mount Rushmore. What a team.
Yeah, they were awesome. They're not on my list. They were just off, but yeah, having them, and I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Edge and Christian and the Dudleys teamed at one point too.
Yes.
And I think the Hardys and the Dudleys teamed at one point. So like they've all like kind of teamed with each other at Survivor Series. So yeah, it's when you think of tag team wrestling in WWE, I think the first three names that pop up are those three.
Yep.
Because of everything that they did in TLC. So yeah, that's an awesome team.
Yeah, it really is. All right. Let me go ahead and go with one more of mine. That way I'm on track with you and we can reveal our last teams together. I am going to go with a team that you probably forgot team together. You may not have, but it's a team of legends in 2006. Ready for this? Ric Flair, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Sergeant Slaughter, and Ron Simmons. Now listen, 2006, I understand that these guys were not in their prime, not anywhere close, right?
Yeah.
But Andy, the fact that these four guys were a Survivor Series team in 2006 and how incredible their careers were, the fact that Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes were on the same team in 2006, come on, man. Yeah. Like that's Mount Rushmore for me.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. They didn't get on my list or even my honorable mentions, but it makes sense. It makes sense.
All right, last one. You're rounding out your top four in no particular order, obviously.
Yeah. So this is where my bias comes out. And this is where we're going to have a lot of fun because I was lucky enough to be in the building in 2019 for Survivor Series. And I almost put the men's team on here.
Oh,
I almost did. And then I had the flashback of Walter being eliminated in less than 5 minutes. And that just made me mad. But Keith Lee at the end was the second most over person that weekend.
Sure.
Because when Rhea Ripley walked out into this arena, it absolutely exploded. And so my fourth pick is the women's NXT Survivor Series team from 2019, because if you look at the list of names that was on this team and what they became, you had Rhea Ripley, who is the biggest women's star in the company right now. And I think that's very easy to say. Bianca Belair, who I would probably say is the second biggest women's woman on the roster right now. You have Io Shirai at the time, who former world champ, Miss Money in the Bank, has done a lot. Toni Storm, who didn't do a whole lot on the main roster in WWE, but if you look at what she's done in AEW since, I mean, she carried the company for about a year with her gimmick and everything else. Her and Mariah May. And then the one outlier who I think we both have a soft spot for because we know how great she is, Candice LeRae. It was wild to see those five ladies come out, and not only come out there, they won the match, and they were more over than anybody else that night. Like, it was crazy to see how over they were.
That's awesome. I didn't have a women's War Games team on my list, but that one would certainly make for a contending fourth spot. But my fourth spot, it is a no-brainer for me. It was the team that when I was doing research for this, It's the first team I wrote down, and it wasn't going anywhere. Let me tell you who it is. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Matt and Jeff Hardy, and CM Punk.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about the most star-studded Survivor Series team of all time, especially in this era, and how freaking popular Jeff Hardy was. Like, this team right here, there's none better in my opinion. Yeah. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more memorable ones too, because I think that's the one where Shawn slid out of the ring and put his arm around what's her name, and like that's been and that's been copied a couple of times.
Did that happen at that event?
It might have. I know that's the one where like the match started, Shawn super kicked somebody. He's like, I don't even know who that was. Like I just eliminated him.
Yes,
and then that's also the one that Punk likes to bring up the most because it's out of everybody in the whole ring, they were chanting CM Punk's name over and over and over again. So that's I didn't put them on my list because I just didn't even forgot about them. Like I forgot about that team existing. But two, the gimmicky stuff of it kind of took it out for me. But when you look at it, and it's crazy to think, like if you would have probably looked during that time and said down the line, the one person that would have been the odd man out was Matt Hardy. And no offense, no offense to Matt Hardy, because like I love Matt Hardy, but like Jeff Hardy was one of the most popular guys of all time, still is. Triple H is now in charge of the whole company. Shawn Michaels is one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. And then you have CM Punk, who is the most controversial guy probably in the entire company. Especially of this generation, of this era of wrestling, he is the most, like, you either love him or you hate him, guys. So yeah, that's a wild list, a wild route to look at.